Once upon a time, there was a girl named Chamaka. She was just 22 years old, but life had already beaten her in so many ways. Her eyes always looked tired, not because she was lazy, but because she never truly rested. Her baby Somto was just 6 months old and she was raising him alone. No mother, no father, no husband, no family. Chiamaka grew up in an orphanage in Enugu. After she left, things only got harder. She did laundry for people, cleaned gutters, sold fruits at street corners, anything to feed her baby. She never begged. Even when her stomach made loud noises from hunger, she would rather sleep than stretch her hand out to anyone. But something inside her refused to give up. Maybe it was because of Somto, or maybe because she had once seen a woman on TV say, "Sometimes one good opportunity can change your whole life." So that morning, Chamaka tied her baby to her back with a faded wrapper, carried her one small nylon bag, and headed to the bus park. She had managed to borrow some money from Mama Chica, the woman who sold pap and akara on her street. She used that money to buy a cheap flight ticket to Lagos. She didn't even know what Lagos truly looked like. She had only heard stories, but she had gotten a number of a woman who worked in a factory there. The woman told her there might be cleaning jobs available, and if Chiamaka could come, she might be able to start. That was all she needed, a chance. At the airport, Chiamaka felt like a fish dropped in hot pepper soup. Everyone looked so clean and sharp. Some women wore high heels that made click-clack sounds on the floor. Men held phones and talked loudly about dollars and meetings. She looked down at her faded gown. Her baby had stained it with pap. Her sandals were dusty. She carried Somto in her arms now, rocking him gently. He had been crying all morning. His fever had come back, but she didn't want to miss the flight. The moment they announced boarding, her legs felt weak. She held Somto tighter and followed the crowd. When she entered the plane, her mouth opened a little. Everything looked like a movie scene. The chairs were blue and shiny. Cold air blew gently from above her head. A kind hostess helped her find her seat. Chimaka settled beside the window and adjusted Somto on her chest. He was now awake and kicking. Just then, the man who would sit beside her arrived. He wore a clean dark suit. His wristwatch sparkled like water under the sun. He looked expensive from head to toe. His face was calm, his beard well-shaped, and his scent reminded her of something soft and rich. She quickly turned away. The man sat down quietly and glanced at her and the baby. Then he smiled. "Hello," he said, his voice deep but gentle. "Good afternoon, sir," Chiamaka replied quickly. "What's his name?" he asked, nodding at Somto. "Somto," she said. "Sorry for disturbing you. He has a little fever." "No problem," the man said. "Babies cry. It's not their fault." Chiamaka didn't expect that reply. Most people frowned or hissed when Somto cried, but this man was different. The flight took off. As the plane rose into the sky, Somto started to cry again. Loud, sharp cries. People began turning their heads. Some rolled their eyes. One woman in front even muttered, "God, I hope this is not how this whole flight will be." Chiamaka's hands shook as she tried to calm her baby. "Shh, Somto, please," she whispered, bouncing him gently. "Please now, stop. Just for today. Don't cry, please." But the baby didn't stop. He cried louder. She rocked him. She patted his back. She gave him water. Nothing worked. Then the man beside her stretched out his hand. "May I?" he asked. Chiamaka blinked in confusion. "Let me try," he said again, smiling softly. She hesitated, then handed over the baby. Somto stopped crying almost immediately. The man chuckled. "Maybe I have magic," he said. Chiamaka sighed in relief and smiled. "I'm really sorry," she said. "This is his first time on a plane. Everything is new to him." "It's all right," the man replied. "It's my 100th time, but sometimes I still get scared too." That made her laugh a little. Minutes passed. Somto slept in the man's arms. Chiamaka leaned back in her seat. Her eyes grew heavy. The cold air, the stress, the hunger, the worry, all mixed together. Before she knew it, she leaned slightly to the right, her head resting on the man's shoulder. She didn't mean to, but her body was too tired to care. The man didn't move. He looked down at her. Then he looked at the baby in his arms. Something deep in his chest stirred. It was strange. He didn't understand it, but it made him stay still. For almost an hour, Chiamaka slept peacefully. Somto snored softly in the man's arms. The plane moved smoothly in the sky. Nobody disturbed them. When the pilot announced that they were about to land, Chiamaka woke up. Her eyes widened the moment she realized where her head was. "Oh my God, I'm so sorry, sir," she said, jumping back. "I didn't mean to." "It's fine," the man interrupted gently. "You needed the rest." She looked at Somto in his arms and panicked. "My baby!" "He's fine," the man said, handing him over. "He slept well." As she adjusted the baby on her chest, she noticed something. Somto was playing with the man's wristwatch, pressing his small fingers on the shiny surface. She gasped. "I'm so sorry, sir. Please, I didn't know." "He didn't break it, did he?" The man smiled. "He didn't. He just has good taste." Chimaka blinked again. Who was this man? Why was he so kind? The plane landed. People began standing and bringing down their bags. "Thank you," Chimaka said, looking at him with honest eyes. "Thank you for everything. I don't know your name, but God bless you, sir." The man stood up slowly and reached for his briefcase. "Take care of Somto," he said. "And what's your name?" "Chimaka," she replied shyly. He nodded. "I'm Darlington." He stepped aside to let her pass. She walked off the plane, not knowing that the man she had just leaned on was Darlington Obi, one of the most powerful CEOs in Nigeria. Outside the airport, Chiamaka wrapped her baby tighter and joined the crowd. She had to take a long bus ride to the woman's house who promised her the job. Her legs ached, her stomach growled, but her heart was light. She didn't know why. Maybe because for the first time in a long time, someone had treated her with respect. Back inside the airport lounge, Darlington stood with his phone to his ear. "Ucha," he said to his assistant, "I want you to do something for me." "What's that, sir?" "The girl I sat with on the plane. Her name is Chiamaka. She has a baby named Somto. I want you to find out everything about her." "Why, sir?" Darlington looked through the glass at the direction she had gone. "Because something tells me her story is not ordinary." The sky in Lagos was hot and heavy. Chiamaka stepped out of the airport and looked around. Her baby Somto had started to cry again. She adjusted him on her chest and clutched her nylon bag tighter. She had no idea where she was exactly, only that the address she was going to was in Ajagunle. That was where the woman from the factory said she lived. She walked for minutes until she found a small kiosk. The man there helped her get a key to mile 2. From there, she took a dirty bus that coughed like it was about to break down. All through the journey she prayed, "God, please let this woman still be there. Let this job be real. I don't want to go back home like a failure. Please, Lord, please." When she reached Ajagunle, the streets looked tired. Broken gutters, dusty houses, loud music playing from different directions. Children ran barefoot on the roads. She knocked on a brown gate that looked like it hadn't been touched since the war. A tired-looking woman opened it, wearing a wrapper on her chest and holding a long spoon. "Yes. Who are you looking for?" the woman asked. "Good afternoon, Mom. Please, I'm looking for Sister Justina. She said I should come for work. I'm Chimaka." The woman frowned. "Justina? She left this place 2 weeks ago. She got another job in Ikorodu." Chimaka felt her chest tighten. "She's not here anymore?" "No. Oh, you can check the next compound. Maybe they have her number." Chimaka nodded slowly. "Okay, thank you." As she walked away, her legs started to shake. No contact, no job, no place to sleep, nothing. She sat on a stone near the corner of the street and placed Somto beside her. The baby was sweating, uncomfortable. "I tried, Somto," she whispered as her voice cracked. "I really tried." Tears gathered in her eyes, but she wiped them quickly. She didn't want anyone to see her cry. 2 hours later, she managed to get a small room for the night. The landlord, an old man with a missing tooth, said she could stay for 1 night and clean his corridor in the morning. That night, she didn't sleep. Somto's fever had come back. His body was hot. She held him close, whispering gently in his ear, "Don't leave me, please. You're all I have." She had no money for medicine, nothing. But somehow, she still had hope. She didn't know why. Maybe it was the face of that kind man on the plane, the way he had smiled at her, the way he had let her sleep. What was his name again? Darlington. The next morning, in a tall glass building in Victoria Island, Darlington Obi stood by his office window. He wore a plain white shirt and dark trousers. His tie hung loosely around his neck. He wasn't thinking about the new investors. He wasn't thinking about the meeting he was supposed to have in 15 minutes. He was thinking about her. "Sir," his assistant Uche said, stepping into the room. "I found her." Darlington turned sharply. "You did?" "Yes, her name is Chimaka Nwok. She's 22. Grew up in an orphanage. Lost her mother during childbirth. No records of her father. She has no family, no job, no qualifications beyond WEC. Her baby's name is Somtachukwu." Darlington nodded slowly. "Where is she now?" "She's in Ajagunl, a temporary place. I think she was supposed to meet someone for a cleaning job, but the person relocated." Darlington looked down at his hands, then walked to his desk and picked up his phone. "Get the car. We're going there." Chimaka was sweeping the corridor outside the small compound when the black SUV pulled up. She didn't notice at first. She was busy trying to stop Somto from crawling into the gutter. But the moment she turned and saw the man in the suit stepping out of the car, her heart nearly stopped. She froze, holding the broom tightly. "Good morning, Chimaka," Darlington said. Her mouth opened slightly. "You? How, sir?" "I hope I'm not disturbing you," he said calmly. "Can we talk for a few minutes?" She nodded slowly, her hands shaking. She picked up Somto and followed him to the car. The other tenants peeped through their windows, whispering. Inside the car, the air was cool. Chimaka sat on the edge of the seat, too scared to relax. "I asked my assistant to find you," Darlington said. "I hope you don't mind." She blinked. "No, sir, I'm just surprised." "I wanted to see how you were doing," he continued. "You left the plane so fast. I didn't get to ask you. What do you do? Are you working?" She shook her head slowly. "No job, sir. I came to Lagos to find work. I was supposed to meet someone, but she's no longer here." Darlington nodded like he already knew. "I want to offer you something," he said. "But I need you to listen first." Chimaka stared at him, confused. "I run a charity foundation," he explained. "It's under my company. We work with poor communities, especially women and children. I've been looking for someone to join the team. Someone who understands what it means to suffer. Someone who has been there. Someone honest." She didn't say anything. She was still trying to understand his words. "I think you'll do well in the role," he said. "We'll train you. You'll earn a salary, a place to live, medical care for your baby. You'll work closely with the team, helping people just like you." Her mouth opened again, but no words came out. "I know this is sudden," he said, "but I believe in giving people a chance. Will you accept it?" Chimaka's hands covered her mouth. "I don't know what to say," she whispered. "Just say yes," he said, smiling. "Let us help you, and in return, you'll help others." She nodded slowly. "Yes, yes, I will. Thank you, sir." That evening, Chimaka stood in front of a small but clean apartment in Lekki. She looked around in disbelief. A woman from the company had brought her there. Her name was Amara. She gave her keys, a list of items, and told her she'd start work in 2 days. Chimaka stepped inside. The floor was tiled. The air smelled fresh. There was a fan, a mattress, a little fridge, even a baby cot. She turned slowly in the room. Somto was asleep in her arms. She sat on the bed, held him tighter, and began to cry. Not because she was sad, but because for the first time in her life, she felt safe. Back at Darlington's office, his secretary, Bimpy, knocked gently and entered. "I saw you left the office earlier, sir." "Yes, I had something important to handle," Darlington replied. Bimp folded her arms. "And may I ask who the girl is? The one you told HR to onboard?" Darlington looked at her, his voice calm. "Her name is Chimaka. She'll be working with the foundation team." Bimpy's eyebrow twitched. "Just like that?" Darlington leaned back in his chair. "Sometimes the right people don't come dressed in suits." Bimp didn't reply. She just nodded, smiled, and walked out. But the smile didn't reach her eyes. The first time Chimaka walked into Obitech headquarters, she felt like she had stepped into a different world. The building was tall, full of glass walls that shined like mirrors. Inside, everything smelled clean, like lemon and fresh paint. The floor was white. The chairs were soft. Computers made soft clicking sounds all around. She carried Somto on her back as she stood at the reception desk. A woman in a black skirt and heels looked at her with surprise. "Can I help you?" the receptionist asked. I'm, I'm Chimaka Nwoke," she said shyly. "I was asked to report today for training. Mr. Darlington said I should come." The receptionist raised her eyebrows slightly, then checked something on her screen. "Oh, you're the new hire for the foundation," she said with a polite smile. "Please have a seat." Chimaka sat down and adjusted Somto, who was now chewing on the corner of her wrapper. People walked past her, looking at her from the corner of their eyes. Most wore suits. Some whispered. One man even laughed softly and said, "Is this a daycare now?" She looked down at her hands and held her bag tighter. A woman named Amara came downstairs to meet her. Amara worked as a senior staff member in the foundation unit and had been told to train Chiamaka. "Welcome," Amara said with a kind smile. "You and your baby must be tired." Chiamaka stood up quickly. "Yes, Ma, thank you so much." "You can call me Amara," the woman said. "Let me show you around." She led Chiamaka through the different departments. "This floor is where the tech team works," Amara explained. "That side is for logistics. Upstairs is where Mr. Darlington stays." When they entered the foundations section, everything looked different. There were posters on the walls, photos of women learning skills, children in clean uniforms, and old women smiling with food packs in front of them. "This is where we plan our outreach programs," Amara explained. "We go to rural areas, orphanages, sometimes even prisons. Mr. Darlington funds everything quietly. He doesn't like to make noise about it." Chiamaka was surprised. "I didn't know rich people helped like this," she said softly. Amara smiled. "Some do, some don't. But Mr. Darlington is different." Chiamaka nodded. She already knew that. By the second week, she had started learning how to enter data, make calls, and help pack supplies. She worked hard, never complained, and always asked questions. She was quiet but smart. Everyone in the foundation unit liked her, except one person, Bimpy, Darlington's secretary. Bimpy had been working at Obitech for 4 years. She always wore the sharpest clothes, heels that clicked like a soldier's boots, and her nails were always painted red. She had noticed everything. The way Darlington spoke gently to Chiamaka. The way he once paused in a meeting and asked someone to check if Chiamaka had eaten. The way he smiled when Somto giggled in the hallway. One morning, Bimpy stood near the printer and watched Chiamaka pass by with Somto tied on her back. Bimpy muttered. "Office work with wrapper and baby. Interesting." Another staff beside her chuckled. "That's the CEO's new project, I heard." "Project?" Bimpa asked, turning. "You haven't heard? They say she's staying in one of his apartments. In Lecchio." "Really?" Bimpy's voice sharpened. One cleaner said the car that picks her up sometimes is the same car Mr. Darlington uses." Bimpy smiled tightly but said nothing more. She walked back to her desk, sat down, and stared at the glass door to Darlington's office. Inside, Darlington was in a meeting with a group of managers. Chiamaka had just walked in to drop a report. She placed it on the table, nodded respectfully, and turned to leave. As she walked out, one of the older men leaned toward Darlington and joked, "Sir, are you planning to open a creche upstairs soon?" Everyone laughed. Darlington looked at him calmly. "Is that a problem?" "No, no," the man replied quickly. "Just asking." The laughter died down. Later that afternoon, Chiamaka went to the small break room to eat her lunch. She sat quietly, feeding Somto mashed yams she had packed from home. 2 female staff walked in and opened the fridge. "Did you see the shoes she wore today?" one whispered. "Flat slippers in this company? Ah, if not for baby face, she wouldn't even pass gate man interview. She's lucky, Shah. Some of us have master's degrees, but we're still reporting to her now." Chiamaka heard everything, but she said nothing. She wiped her son's mouth gently and whispered, "Don't cry, Somto. Not here." Her hands were shaking again, not from fear, but from shame. That evening, Amara met her in the elevator. "You okay?" Amara asked. Chiamaka nodded quickly. "Yes, I'm fine." Amara looked at her closely. "People can be wicked, Chiamaka, but don't let their jealousy distract you. You're doing well." Chiamaka nodded again, fighting back tears. In Darlington's office that night, Bimpy came in with her tablet. "Sir, these are the reports from the media team." she said, placing the tablet on the table. Darlington looked through them, then paused. Why is the foundation team behind on this quarter's supplies? He asked. They're busy planning the next outreach, Bimpy replied. Then she paused and added slowly, but there's also been some noise in the company lately. Darlington looked up. What kind of noise? Rumors about the girl, Chamaka. He said nothing. Some staff are saying she's your special friend, that she gets paid more than others, that she's staying in your house. Darlington's eyes stayed calm, but his voice was sharp. Did you start these rumors? Bimpy flinched slightly. No, sir. I'm only telling you what's going around. People are talking. Then let them talk, he said, as long as they're working. She nodded and left, but her face was stiff. Later that night, Chamaka sat in her apartment holding Somto. She was quiet. The baby had fallen asleep. She thought about everything. How people stared at her, how they whispered, how one of the drivers had even asked her, Madam, are you the new madam of the house? She didn't ask for this attention. All she wanted was to work, to survive. Her phone rang. It was Amara. Chamaka, just checking on you, Amara said. I'm fine, she replied softly. I know people are being nasty, but you're doing a good job. Don't let them win. Thank you. Sleep well, and kiss Somto for me. She smiled a little and hung up. She looked at her sleeping baby and whispered, One day, all this will be behind us. I just have to be strong. One Thursday morning, the office was quiet. Chamaka had arrived early with Somto. The baby was asleep in the small crib inside the corner room they had given her. She always came in early so she could sweep the foundation floor before others arrived. She never waited to be asked. It was the way she had trained herself. If you're useful, they'll keep you. That was what life had taught her. As she wiped down the tables, she didn't know that something dark was already growing behind her back. Bimp sat in her car that same morning, holding a brown envelope in her lap. Inside were pictures, not ordinary ones. One showed Chamaka squatting beside a gutter, washing clothes. Another showed her standing at a market stall with a baby tied to her back, selling roasted plantain. There was even one of her begging someone in front of a pharmacy, her hands stretched out, her face desperate. Bimp looked at them one by one and smiled to herself. She thinks she's smart, she whispered. Let's see what happens when everyone knows who she really is. She had paid a man from Chiamaka's old street to follow her around back then. The man had taken the pictures with a small phone and sent them to Bimpy 2 days ago. She had been patient, but now she was ready. That afternoon, a team meeting was called for all staff in the foundation unit. They were preparing for a big outreach to 3 rural communities. Everyone gathered in the large conference room. Staff from other departments were also present. Even a few board members were around. Amara stood at the front, holding a marker. Chamaka sat near the back with Somto in her arms, feeding him mashed beans quietly. Everything was going well, until Bimpy walked in, holding a tablet. She smiled brightly. Sorry to interrupt, she said. I thought this was the perfect moment to introduce something interesting. Amara looked confused. We're in the middle of planning, Bimpy. I won't take long, she said. I just want to show the team something educational. She connected the tablet to the screen. Everyone turned to look. Then the first picture appeared. Chamaka's face froze. It was the picture of her squatting beside the gutter. Gasps filled the room. Then another image, her selling plantain with Somto tied to her back. Then the worst one, her begging outside a pharmacy. People started whispering. Some laughed. Others covered their mouths. Chiamaka's hands trembled. Sona dropped his spoon. What is this? Amara shouted, standing up. Just pictures, Bimpy said sweetly. I think it's important that we know the background of those we work with. Don't you? Chiamaka stood slowly, her face pale. Where did you get those? She asked quietly. Bimpy smiled. Oh, I have my ways. We just like to know who is representing our company to the public. Someone from the back whispered, So it's true? She used to beg on the street? Another person said, No wonder the CEO took pity on her. Chiamaka looked around. Everyone's eyes were on her. Not with respect, but pity. Or worse, disgust. She turned and walked out of the room without a word. Inside her small office, she sat on the floor, holding Somto tightly. Tears rolled down her cheeks. "I didn't do anything wrong," she whispered. "I didn't steal. I didn't lie. Why are they doing this to me?" Her phone rang. It was Amara. She didn't pick. Then it rang again. She wiped her face and answered. "Chimaka, where are you?" Amara asked. "In my office," and she whispered. "I'm coming there right now." A few minutes later, Amara walked in and shut the door behind her. Chimaka didn't look up. "I'm sorry," Amara said. "That wasn't supposed to happen." "I thought I was finally safe," Chimaka whispered. "I thought people saw me as someone useful." "They do. Don't let that woman win. She's jealous. That's all." Chimaka looked up. "She's not wrong. That's my past. I begged. I suffered. I almost gave Somto away. I've done things I'm not proud of. But you survived," Amara said gently. "And you didn't give up. That's what matters." Just then, there was a soft knock on the door. It opened. Darlington walked in. His eyes were calm but serious. "Amara," he said quietly, "please give us a moment." Amara nodded and stepped out. Darlington sat across from Chiamaka. For a moment he said nothing. He just looked at her face, red and wet from tears. "I heard what happened," he said softly. "Are you okay?" She shook her head slowly. "No. I'm sorry you had to go through that." "Why are they doing this to me?" she asked. "I didn't come here to fight anybody. I just wanted to work, to take care of my child." Darlington sighed. "Sometimes when people see something pure, something honest, they want to break it, because it reminds them of everything they're not." Chimaka looked at him. "Are you ashamed of me now?" His eyes didn't flinch. "No," he said firmly. "I'm proud of you." Her lips trembled. "But they saw everything. Now they'll say I'm only here because I cried on your shoulder." "I brought you here because I saw your strength," he said, "and I won't let anyone turn that into a joke." Chimaka looked down at Somto, who had fallen asleep on her lap. "I can't go back to that life," she whispered. "I don't have another plan." "Then don't go back," Darlington said. "Stay here. Hold your head up. Let them whisper. Eventually they'll get tired." There was a long silence. Then Chiamaka nodded. Slowly. "I'll stay." Darlington stood. "Good. Because we need you." As he walked to the door, Chiamaka saw something on his desk. It was a framed picture. A woman, smiling, holding a baby in her arms. "Who's that?" Chiamaka asked. Darlington paused. "My late wife," he said. "Ifunanya." Chiamaka stared at the baby in the picture. For a second, it looked exactly like Somto. That night after she got home, she couldn't stop thinking about the photo. She took Somto in her arms and stared at his small face. Was it possible? Was that why Darlington looked at him the way he did? She closed her eyes and whispered, "God, I don't understand any of this. But please, don't let me lose this chance." Back in the office, Bimp stood near the elevator, watching Darlington walk by. He didn't look at her. He didn't say a word. That silence burned her more than any insult. She clenched her jaw and muttered, "This isn't over." The next morning, the sun rose slowly behind the buildings in Victoria Island. The light touched the windows of Obitech and bounced off like glass. Inside the foundation office, Chimaka walked in, holding a calm and sleepy Somto. Her eyes were swollen from crying the night before, but her steps were firm. Amara saw her and stood up quickly. "You came." Chimaka nodded and tried to smile. "They didn't employ me to run away." Amara walked closer and hugged her gently. "Good. That's the spirit." Some staff who had mocked her the day before lowered their eyes. Others whispered fake greetings as she walked past. But she didn't reply them. She had learned something the hard way. If you stop to explain yourself to everyone, you'll never move forward. She sat at her desk, opened her drawer, and brought out her files. She held Somto in one hand and began writing with the other. Today was a new day. No matter what happened yesterday, she was not going to give up. Upstairs, Darlington sat in his office staring at the photo on his table. The woman in the frame, his wife, Ifunanya, was smiling. Her arms were wrapped around a baby who looked so full of life. The memory hit him like a cold wind. It had been 2 years since he buried her. 2 years since his heart last knew peace. He stood and walked to the window. His voice was low when he spoke. She would have liked Chimaka, he whispered. She had that same strength. Just then there was a knock. Come in, he said without turning. It was Amara. She stepped in slowly. She's back, Amara said. Darlington nodded once. Good. I just wanted to thank you, sir, for defending her. I didn't do it for her, he said quietly. I did it for the truth. People like her. They remind me of why we started this foundation in the first place. Amara hesitated before asking, Can I ask you something, sir? Go ahead. Why did you hire her? I mean, that day at the airport. What made you even notice her? Darlington turned and walked slowly to his desk. He picked up the photo frame and showed it to her. My wife gave me a message before she died, he said. She said, the woman who will heal your heart will come to you with a baby in her arms. Amara's eyes widened. She said that? He nodded. I laughed when she said it, he added. I told her to rest. She said, you'll know it when you see her. She won't be loud, she won't beg, but her presence will shake you, and her child will touch you in a way no one else has. Amara sat down slowly. And when you saw Chiamaka, I felt something. And when I held that baby, I felt peace, the kind I haven't known in years. Amara stared at him for a while. Then she whispered, So, do you think she's the one? Darlington looked down at the photo again. I don't know, but I know I'm not letting her go. That same day, Chiamaka was sent on her first official outreach. The team was going to a school in Makoko to donate food and books. Amara led the group, and Chiamaka was assigned to document the list of students. They reached the waterside school by boat. The children ran toward them, laughing and shouting. Some wore torn uniforms, some wore none at all. Chiamaka knelt down and greeted a girl who was barefoot. What's your name? She asked. Zainab, the girl said. Are you in school? No, my mummy said I'll go next year. Chiamaka looked at her and saw herself in that little face. That same pain, that same hope. By the time the outreach ended, she had filled 2 full pages of children who had never seen the inside of a classroom. On their way back, Amara looked at her and smiled. You were born for this, she said. Chiamaka smiled quietly, but her mind was far away. That evening, Darlington was waiting outside the company building when their van returned. It was unusual. He never came downstairs, but today he did. When Chiamaka stepped out of the van holding Samto, she stopped in surprise. Sir, she said. I was just passing, he lied. Thought I'd greet the team. Amara looked at him knowingly. We had a successful trip, sir. Good. Then he turned to Chiamaka. Can I talk to you? Just for a few minutes? She looked around, then nodded. Yes, sir. They walked toward the garden beside the building. It was quiet, with a few chairs and lights. They sat down. Somto played with the leaves beside them. For a while, no one spoke. Then Darlington broke the silence. I want to tell you something. Something personal. Chiamaka looked up. My wife. Her name was Ifunanya. She died of cancer. She was the light in my life. The one person who truly understood me. I'm sorry, Chiamaka said softly. Before she passed, she said something strange. She said, the woman who will bring peace back into your life will not come rich or perfect. She'll carry her own pain, and she'll carry a child that doesn't belong to you, but will belong to your heart. Chiamaka's hand froze. He turned to her. The first time I saw you, I didn't just see a poor girl. I saw strength. I saw someone who has been through fire and didn't melt. She blinked fast, confused. Sir, I don't understand. I'm not saying this to confuse you, he said. I'm saying it because you need to know that everything that brought you here, it wasn't an accident. Chiamaka swallowed hard. Are you saying your wife's prophecy, you think it's about me? I don't know, he said, but I can't deny how I feel when I see you and Samto. Her heart began to race. I'm just a girl from the street, she said. I don't know how to live in your world. Then maybe my world needs to learn how to live in yours, he replied. Samto crawled to Darlington and touched his shoe. Darlington bent down and lifted him. The baby laughed. Chiamaka watched them. Something warm moved inside her chest. Darlington looked up. You've changed something in me, Chiamaka, and that matters more than all the money in this world. Later that night, Chiamaka lay on her bed staring at the ceiling. Somto slept beside her. She kept replaying Darlington's words in her mind, not because of love, but because of meaning. For the first time, someone saw her. Not her tears, not her shame, not her past, but her strength. She didn't know where this road would end, but she was no longer walking alone. The next week passed quietly, but the silence was heavy. Chiamaka kept her head down. She did her work. She took care of Somto. She greeted everyone politely. But something had changed. People didn't laugh behind her back as much anymore, but they didn't exactly welcome her either. They just watched. She could feel it in the way they paused their conversations when she entered a room, the way their eyes followed her, waiting to catch her doing something wrong. Even when she did everything right, it still didn't feel like enough. One morning, while she was sorting files in the storage room, Amara walked in with a worried look. Chiamaka, she said, closing the door behind her. Have you checked the news today? Chiamaka blinked. No. Why? Amara walked over, holding out her phone. Just see for yourself. On the screen was a bold headline, exclusive, billionaire CEO caught with secret baby and hidden girlfriend. Below it was a photo, Chiamaka, holding Somto, standing beside Darlington, who was smiling at the child. She couldn't breathe. Where did they get this? She whispered. Someone must have leaked it, Amara said. They followed you both. That photo was taken outside the Makoko outreach, probably one of the press hiding in the crowd. Chiamaka's hands shook. This is bad. This is very, very bad. It's all over Twitter, Instagram, even gossip blogs. Some people are already writing things like, so this is why he never remarried. Others are saying he secretly adopted you. I didn't ask for this, Amara, Chiamaka said, her voice rising. I didn't do anything wrong. I know you didn't, but the press doesn't care about the truth. They care about the story. That afternoon, Darlington sat in his office, staring at his phone. The screen was full of angry comments. He's been hiding a child? That girl looks like a glorified housemaid. Is this the real reason the company's been losing partnerships? Nepotism at its finest. He sighed deeply and rubbed his temples. There was a knock at the door. Come in, he said. It was Mr. Follerin, one of the company's board members. His face was hard, his tone even harder. Darlington, we need to talk. Darlington nodded. I expected this. You said this girl was just a staff member, but now her face is everywhere. I didn't leak that story. That's not the point, Follerin snapped. Investors are pulling back. We've had 3 partnership meetings canceled since morning. People are wondering what kind of business we're running here. I've done nothing wrong, Darlington said. I helped someone who needed a chance. Follerin leaned over the desk. You're the face of this company. If people think you're hiding mistresses and babies, that becomes who we are. Fix this. Now, he stormed out. That evening, Chiamaka sat alone in her apartment, holding Somto close. She didn't eat. She didn't speak. Her phone wouldn't stop ringing, but she ignored every call. She felt like the ground had opened and was slowly swallowing her. A knock came at the door. She stayed still. It came again. Chiamaka? A familiar voice called softly. Please, it's me. Darlington. She opened the door slowly. He stepped in, his eyes tired, his voice low. I'm sorry, he said. I didn't see this coming. She looked at him. Did they believe you? No, he replied, but that doesn't matter. It matters to me, she said, her voice shaking. Do you know what people are calling me? A gold digger, a prostitute, a liar. They're saying I trapped you with a fake baby. Darlington's face hardened. That's a lie. I know it's a lie, she snapped, but when the whole world believes it, the truth stops mattering. There was a long silence. I can't do this anymore, she whispered. He stepped closer. What are you saying? I'm resigning, she said. I'll leave the apartment too. You don't have to protect me anymore. It's better if I disappear. No, it's the only way to save your company, to save your name. He looked at her like he couldn't believe what he was hearing. Do you really think I care about my name more than I care about you? You should, she said. Because your world is not my world, and I don't belong in it. Samto began to cry in her arms. She rocked him gently but didn't stop speaking. I was just a girl on a flight, Darlington. You were kind to me. You helped me when no one else would. But that's all it was meant to be. Help. Not this. Not scandal. Not war. Darlington's jaw clenched. Please don't go. Tears filled her eyes. I have to. She turned and walked into the bedroom, shut the door, and fell on the bed, shaking. On the other side of the wall, Darlington stood still, listening to the sound of her crying. Then he left. The next morning, Chamaka packed her few things. She didn't tell anyone. She simply folded her wrapper, picked up Samto, and walked out the door. She didn't know where she was going. She just knew she had to go. Darlington arrived at the office and went straight to her desk. Empty. Where is Chamaka? He asked Amara. Amara looked down. She's gone. She left early this morning. I tried calling, but her line is switched off. His chest tightened. Without thinking, he turned and walked out. Straight to the elevator, straight to his car. Driver, he said, find her. I don't care what it takes. The rain started small, just drops tapping gently on the roof of the SUV, but soon it grew heavier, washing over the windows like tears. Darlington sat in the back seat, staring out into the gray streets of Lagos as the wipers moved back and forth. He hadn't said a word in over an hour. His driver, Ola, kept looking through the rearview mirror, but didn't ask questions. He could feel the tension inside the car like heat. Darlington finally spoke. Did you try the phone number again? Yes, sir. Still switched off. What about her last location? That apartment? I went there this morning. Empty. The neighbors said she left with a small bag and her baby around 5 a.m. Darlington leaned forward. Then start from the beginning, from where I first found her. Ajagunle. Yes. Drive. Chimaka was walking through the wet streets of Ikotun. She had found a cheap room for a few nights behind a church. The owner allowed her to stay there after she offered to help clean the compound and teach memory verses to the little children in their evening Bible class. She had not eaten since yesterday. She gave Sumto the last bit of pap in a bottle, and now her stomach growled quietly as she pushed a wheelbarrow filled with brooms and mops. People looked at her and kept walking. Nobody knew she had once worked in a glass building. Nobody knew she had once been invited into a billionaire's world. And she was okay with that. She had told herself, you started with nothing. You'll survive again. But at night when Samto cried and there was no milk, no light, and no strength left, she would whisper into the dark, I miss you, Darlington, but I don't want to destroy you. Back in Adyaganlo, Darlington stood in front of the old compound where he first found her. The same brown gate, the same barking dog, the same old man with missing teeth came to the gate again. Ah, Oga, you done come back? The man asked. I'm looking for the girl, Darlington said. Chimaka, the one with the baby. Ah, that one no day here again. Oh, she come out since weeks back. But wait, the man scratched his head. One woman for Inside Market Talk say she see her last week. She say the girl they stay behind one small church for Ikotun. You fit try there. Darlington didn't wait. He turned to his driver. Let's go. The small church compound in Ikotun was quiet. Rainwater dripped from the edges of the zinc roof. The building was painted white, but the paint had started to peel. Darlington stepped out of the car and looked around. Children were running in the rain with plastic buckets. Then he saw her. She was standing under a shed, her wrapper tied tightly around her chest, her hair wet, and her feet bare. She was carrying a mop, cleaning the cement floor with water and soap. He froze. For a moment, he didn't know how to move. She turned. Her eyes met his. The mop dropped from her hand. Darlington? She whispered. He walked slowly toward her, not saying a word, just staring. Rain soaked the sides of his shirt, but he didn't care. Chimaka bent down and picked up the mop. She turned her back to him quickly and began scrubbing again, hard. Why are you here? She said, her voice shaky. I came to find you, he said. You didn't even tell me goodbye. You didn't need a goodbye. I was just a burden you didn't ask for. Don't say that. She turned to him, eyes full of hurt. Do you know what they said about me online? Do you know what it's like for the whole world to drag your name in the mud just because you leaned on the wrong person's shoulder? Darlington stepped closer. You didn't lean on the wrong person. You leaned on the only person who would have caught you. Her lips trembled. Your investors left you. Your board turned against you. Because of me. And I let them, he said. I let them talk, but I never stopped looking for you. There was silence between them. The only sound was the soft splash of water under her feet. She whispered, "Why did you come?" "Because I love you," he said quietly. Her eyes widened. "I didn't know it at first," he continued. "I thought I was just helping someone. But when you left, it felt like something inside me broke. And I realized, you weren't the one who needed saving. I was." A tear rolled down her cheek. "I don't belong in your world, Darlington." "Then I'll come into yours," he said. "I'll mop this floor. I'll carry that bucket. I'll kneel beside you in church. Anywhere you are, that's where I want to be." She covered her mouth, trying not to cry. He stepped closer and held her hands. "Come home, Chimaka. Please." She looked down at their fingers joined together. She looked at her feet in the dirty water. She looked at her own reflection in the puddle, and she nodded. 2 days later, Obitech Foundation called for a press conference. Cameras lined the room. Journalists whispered as Darlington stepped up to the microphone. He wore a navy blue suit. Chimaka stood beside him, wearing a clean gown and holding Somto, who wore a tiny bow tie. Darlington took a deep breath and spoke. "For weeks, lies have been written about this woman standing beside me. They said she was my secret lover. They said her child was mine. They said she had no value." He paused. The room was silent. "But this is the truth. Chiamaka is one of the strongest women I have ever met. She was homeless, jobless, abandoned, but she never gave up. She carried her son across towns looking for a better life, and when I met her, I didn't find weakness. I found power." People nodded, cameras clicked. "I hired her not because I pitied her, but because I saw in her what the world is missing: heart, honesty, and the will to rise. And I will never apologize for that." Chiamaka's eyes filled with tears. "And for the record," Darlington added, looking at the reporters, "this is not a scandal. It's a testimony, and her story has only just begun." That night they returned home, together. Chiamaka sat on the couch with Somto asleep in her arms. Darlington walked over and knelt in front of her. "I know this has been hard," he said, "but I'm here now. If you'll let me, I want to build something with you. Not because of pity, not because of a prophecy, but because I see you." She looked at him for a long moment. Then she whispered, "I see you too." The day began with light shining through the large windows of the Obitech Foundation's new headquarters, a bigger, brighter space built in the heart of Lagos mainland. Children were running around the front courtyard. Women in colorful wrappers laughed as they collected food packs. Volunteers wore green shirts with the words, "Hope lives here." Inside the main hall, cameras were being fixed. Chairs were arranged. Reporters whispered. Today was the official launch of the New Life Women and Children Initiative, a bold expansion of the foundation. But that wasn't what had everyone talking. What people were truly whispering about was her, Chiamaka. Not long ago, she was the unknown girl people laughed at. The girl they said didn't belong in tall buildings. The girl they called the CEO's mistake. Now she was standing on a stage, holding the microphone, in a fitted cream dress that didn't show off money, but strength. Her natural hair was neatly packed in a bun. Her voice was calm but confident. She stood like someone who knew what it meant to suffer and survive. "Good morning," she said. "My name is Chimaka Nwoke. I came from nothing. I was born in an orphanage. I lost my mother the day I was born. I didn't know my father. I became a mother myself in the hardest way." The room was still. You could hear a pin drop. There were days I begged for food, days I almost gave up. But I didn't. And one day, I boarded a flight with my son on my back. Tired, hungry, scared. I didn't know I was sitting beside the man who would change my life. She paused, smiled a little, and looked toward the side of the stage where Darlington stood, wearing a soft smile and watching her like she was the only person in the world. "Darlington Obi didn't give me money," she continued. "He gave me something more powerful. He gave me trust. He gave me a chance to work. A chance to grow. A chance to prove that where you're coming from doesn't have to be where you end. Applause filled the room. Some people stood. A few wiped tears. When the clapping stopped, Chimaka said softly, "This foundation is not about me. It's about every mother who thinks she's forgotten, every child who doesn't know what tomorrow will bring. I stand here not because I'm special, but because I refuse to stop walking." She bowed slightly. The room exploded in applause again. After the event, she walked off the stage and went straight to the back, where Somto was playing with toy cars. She knelt beside him. "Did you see me, Somto?" The boy giggled and touched her face. "Mummy Big," he said. She laughed. "Yes, Mummy Big." She picked him up and turned, only to see Darlington standing right behind her. "You did well, Hanchina," he said. She smiled. "Thank you. I was shaking inside." Nobody noticed. There was a pause. They just stood there, both of them watching Somto play with Darlington's tie now. Then he cleared his throat. "Can we take a walk?" She nodded. "Of course." They walked out of the building, hand in hand. The sun was setting. The air smelled like roasted corn from a nearby roadside cellar. They stopped at the parking lot, far from the crowd. Quiet, peaceful. Darlington turned to her. "I've seen a lot in my life," he said. "Wealth, business, fame. But nothing has taught me as much as you have." Chimaka looked down shyly. "You're the one who gave me a platform." "No," he replied. "You gave me meaning." She looked up slowly. He took a deep breath. "My wife's prophecy. I used to think it was about some perfect woman with a clean background. Someone polished, rich, smart. But I understand now. She wasn't talking about what the world calls perfect. She was talking about someone with truth in her eyes, fire in her spirit, and a baby in her arms." Chimaka's throat tightened. She could feel her heart beating faster. "I've tried to wait," he continued. "Tried to give you space, let you grow. But Chimaka, I don't want to just watch you change lives from the side. I want to build that life with you, together." He reached into his pocket slowly and pulled out a small box. Chimaka's hands flew to her mouth. "Darlington," she whispered. "I know we've both come from different worlds," he said. "But standing here now, I don't see our differences. I see what we can become. Will you marry me?" For a moment she didn't move. Then, still holding Somto with one arm, she reached out with the other and took the ring from the box herself. She smiled. "Yes." 6 months later, the wedding was small and private. No noise, no flashing headlines, just family, close friends, and partners from the foundation. Chimaka wore a white lace gown with short sleeves and carried Somto down the aisle. The boy had refused to stay with anyone else. Darlington stood waiting at the altar, wearing a gray suit, tears already in his eyes. As they exchanged vows, Chimaka looked him in the eye and said, "You didn't just give me a home, you gave me a future." And he said, "You didn't just change my life, you saved it." After the wedding, things didn't become perfect, but they became real. Chimaka continued to run the foundation with Amara. They expanded into more villages, opened schools, and created a maternity care program called the Somto Project. She also started a training program for young mothers who had been abandoned, showing them how to earn and grow without shame. Darlington continued to run Obitech, but spent more time with his new family. He didn't mind being late for board meetings if it meant feeding Somto or taking Chimaka to the market himself on Saturdays. They had their fights, their disagreements, their tough days, but at the end of every day, they had each other. One Sunday evening, as the sun began to go down, Chimaka stood by the window of their home, watching Somto chase bubbles on the lawn. Darlington came up behind her, wrapped his arms around her waist, and rested his chin on her shoulder. "You know," she said quietly, "sometimes I still ask myself, what if I never got on that plane?" "Then I would have stayed a lonely man," he replied, "and I'd still be selling roasted plantain." He laughed softly. "That flight was a miracle." She turned to face him. "Or maybe, falling asleep on your shoulder was my destiny." He kissed her forehead, and she whispered, "Sometimes the seat you take in life's journey decides the miracle that finds you."